Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Uncensored Soliloquy. I hope you're doing well. So tonight's episode will also be done in English. So what I want to talk about tonight is interesting interview questions asked at universities. And the reason why I decided to talk about this is because, well, I practice speaking every night, and the way I do it is I get some TOEFL IBT or IELTS questions, and I answer about 10 of them at once. But what I realized is, because I've been doing this for a while now, I've started to run out of questions. So what I decided to do instead is search online and pick up some interesting interview questions, and I've been practicing answering those. So what I want to share with you today is some interesting interview questions from Oxford University, which is probably one of the top universities in the world. Now, compared to Japanese universities, so in Japanese universities, especially for the AO exam, you're normally asked the same kind of questions. So, for instance, they'll probably ask you, so why do you want to study here? Or tell me what you like about your school. Or what kind of club activities are you doing? Or tell me about a time when you had to overcome a very difficult task. Okay, so quite simple. And of course, at the universities around the world, you do get questions like this as well. But they also ask some very interesting questions that can be very difficult to answer. So let me introduce a couple. So it depends on which faculty you are applying for. For instance, if you are applying for, let's say, law. Okay, so here's an example. It says, should it be illegal to run a red light in the middle of the night on an empty road? Isn't that interesting? Should it be illegal to run a red light, in other words, ignore the red light, in the middle of the night on an empty road? So normally people would say yes, because those are the rules. But the interviewer is not asking, they're not expecting like a particular answer. They're not looking for one particular answer. They just want to know how you think. So how would you answer this question? Would you just say, of course it should be illegal because those are the rules? Or would you think otherwise? So yeah, this is interesting because so when I get home late at night and I walk from the station to my home, there are a couple of pedestrian crossings that I have to cross. And sometimes it's red, but there are no cars in sight. And I sometimes think to myself, well, shouldn't I be allowed to cross because I can see that it's completely safe? But with cars, it seems a little different because the penalty probably seems a bit bigger if somebody catches you. But if you think about it, what if, let's say the lights are red and you're in your car, but then you see that there's like a fire that started nearby. Would you wait? Probably not. You would probably decide for yourself that the situation requires you to get out of there as soon as possible. So I don't know, it might not be the same thing, but red light and there's nobody in sight, no other cars in the middle of the night. I don't know. It's a very interesting question, and I would not know how I'd answer it. So yeah, I'd be very interested to hear how you would answer this question. So I'll just quickly introduce maybe about a couple, two more questions from different faculties. So, okay, so let's take a look at music. It says, if you could invent a new musical instrument, what kind of sound would it make? Whoa. That's a difficult question. How would you answer that? What kind of sound would it make? How do you describe sounds that a musical instrument makes? And in particular, it's a new one that's never existed before. Now this is going to test your vocabulary. Alright, and maybe one more. Okay, this one's philosophy. And the question is, should interviews be used for selection? So in other words, is it fair that we're doing what we're doing right now to decide whether or not you get to get into this university? Wow, how would you answer that? I don't know, I can only think of like really basic reasons. So I'd say like, well, conducting an interview is one of the only ways to really truly see what kind of a person the candidate is, because no matter how much paperwork, no matter how many documents you see of them, you'll never be able to find out what kind of a person they are in terms of like personality and how much passion they have. So it's probably a good way to check the person's character. Yeah, but that's very boring. Wow, this is very difficult. So let me know what you thought of these questions, and if you have any interesting answers to any of them. Alright, so that will be all for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.